This is the Picard podcast on TV Podcast Industries, and we're wrapping up Star Trek Picard Season 2. We'll also be crowning the winner of our 10 Forward pub quiz. Welcome back, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. Yes, we are doing our wrap-up of Star Trek Picard's Season 2. This is TV Podcast Industries, and I am one of your hosts, John.
I am your other host, Derek. Just the two of us this time, and it's been ages since we talked Picard, hasn't it?
It certainly has been.
It's
Yes.
quite a while. Chris is off on his honeymoon. He got married a couple of years ago and finally gotten around to his honeymoon now. So.
COVID delayed.
Yes,
in
yes,
terms
exactly.
of when they were actually going to do it.
Yes.
Exactly.
So we know he's having a great time. He's been traveling all over, having a really good time on his holiday. So we decided to get together now that we've our visitors are gone, and John, you were off on holidays as well for a couple of days too. So
I was over visiting mon mère, as it were, to wish her a happy birthday.
Yes, and then we had visitors after that. So
Yes.
so all back to normal. We will be back with loads and loads of podcasting over the next couple of weeks. June is probably the busiest month of the year for shows that are coming out that we're covering. So
Yes, and I will be away for the first half of this as well. So,
and,
alas, I probably won't be on all of the podcasts that come out either.
yes, and Chris, I think, is going to be away for 2 weeks of the time as well, and it doesn't cross over. So we're going to have some interesting times. But I'll be here. Don't
You
worry.
can speak to yourself, Derek, or you can sort of be you, and then you can pretend to be me, and then you
won't
can
do that.
pretend to be Chris.
I won't do that, but at least I'll hopefully be speaking to our fellow TV Podcast Industries listeners who'll be joining us for the podcast separately.
Definitely. But this is TV Podcast Industries, and if you want to, you can pop on over to the website at tvpodcastindustries.com, where you can subscribe to the podcast on any Federation or Borg supporting podcast player of your choice. Any thoughts, whims, theories, comments, you name it, for feedback on any of the podcasts that we have, you can send them into feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com or a voicemail of any of the same as well. But I think after that little public service announcement, let us get on to our wrap up of Picard Season 2.
Yeah, now we did go into a lot of detail in our final episode of Picard Season 2 about our thoughts on the season overall and how it played out. So we're not really going to go into too much detail about Season 2. What we're going to do is kick off with just some feedback that we didn't get around to and that came in after we recorded the finale podcast. With that, we'll probably have a bit of a discussion about our thoughts on the overall season as well.
Definitely.
And then, of course, we're going to go into our 10 Forward pub quiz, give you the answers, give you the winner, and I guess announce the prize, maybe?
Yes, the goodies will be announced as well.
Yes, they will. Right, let's get on to feedback to kick us off.
Yes. First, some feedback from our Facebook group over on facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. Joe Herbers says on episode 10, I think your hope for season 3 following up on the things from season 2 will go unfulfilled. Personally, I'm okay with that. I'd rather they forget the jumble of this season and instead focus on doing something interesting or fun with the characters they are bringing back from the next generation.
Yeah, we kind of said that because the show was going to be a finite 3-season show, it should really tell an arc of a story, starting at the point of Picard where he was at the beginning of the show and ending at a point with this story being told throughout the 3 seasons, so that we could incorporate all the cast that have been brought on board and tell this really good story across it. I'm still hopeful that that's going to be the case, but we did talk about it last time that a lot of that original cast from season 1 who are leaving at the end of season 2 and haven't filmed anything for season 3. So I really have no idea how they're going to go. And it would be interesting if the 3rd season is literally just the next generation rides again.
Yeah. I guess it's interesting what they thought they were going to do with 3 seasons when they first initiated and came up with the project, because just having the returning cast, it felt homogenous. This was a new, in a sense, next generation, a new sort of team around Picard. And so for them to effectively fall like flies really in this season, and for it to be sort of the return of the next generation, I'm absolutely excited for that.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's just slightly unclear to me whether this is what they planned, or in some ways I just get this gut feeling that because of the COVID challenges, it may be just has slightly fallen apart in terms of what they wanted to do. I mean, it was almost, I felt as though with Soong, with that so prominent in the first season and it being kept here in a different way, it's something to do around that, something to do with the fact that Picard is effectively now an android, or robot, or whatever the right
synthetic
human.
Yes.
And I guess that was just a surprise for me that just wasn't touched on. That would be such a rich science fiction vein to tap.
Yeah. In fact, isn't it just said in one jokey line?
Yeah,
we don't really mention that anymore.
So it all feels like it's kind of sort of unthreaded a little. And they had to try and do something else, I guess, maybe with the COVID, or maybe it was just the reception of season 1, particularly the final episode but that was to do with flowers in space. I kind of really felt, rather than anything, particularly around the main thrust of season 1, which I really enjoyed. And I really enjoyed this season as well. I thought it had some really, really good stuff in it, but I think you could really tell the impact of COVID filming, COVID writing in order to sort of have the small groups and so on. But, it'll be interesting still to see what they do with all the characters coming back from the next generation, because, that team up, that group is so iconic. There's a part of so many people's childhood, seeing that for myself, every Tuesday or Wednesday on BBC Two, around dinner time. And, it was a real family thing. My dad loved it. I loved it. Okay, so less a family thing, more just myself and my dad really, really enjoyed it. And if you were in the room, you had to watch it.
Right, I get you, I get you. And I think that's part of my challenge with going into a season 3 of Picard with all of the cast from Next Generation. If that's what it's going to be, if the story is going to be, let's catch up with the cast of the Next Generation, that's almost like a reunion tour. They might as well call this Star Trek Picard, the Next Generation sequel,
reformed,
rather than season 3 of Star Trek Picard. If you're not going to call back to anything that's happened over this 2 seasons, it feels like a bit of a missed opportunity. But I can understand what Joe's saying. If he's not happy with how those 2 seasons went, throw it all out and do one final season, which is just all fun and all fan service.
Yeah, I think Joe's phrase, the jumble of this season is a little bit apt, really, for me. It really is.
Yes, thanks for that, Joe.
Yeah, thanks, Joe.
Let's go on to some thoughts from Dr. Bob Phillips, who sent in his thoughts after the show was finished. He said, "So very late to this party, but I had more of a sense of joyful relief that they pulled it back from the last couple of episodes rather than the engrossed thrill of Moon Knight. I think they did keep the strands of love going strongly here, and how they all need to be expressed to live a life fully. With the finale allowing JL to release his romantic heart at last, could they have been better if spared COVID and given time? Yes. Did they do the best they could, barring the final twist from Doctor Who Flux? Possibly. Do I want a season 3? Yes, I do. Not as much as I want Miss Marvel or Mr. Knight 2, or a return of the Watchmen, but I'll be sure to make time for him again." I think I'm probably in that position, Dr. Bob. Thanks for your thoughts. I'm probably in that position. I'm not as excited about a 3rd season because they got my hopes up with this season. The minute I saw that teaser of Q going to be the main foil for Picard in this season, I was really excited. And then I got a little bit of that idea of the Borg being involved and a Borg Queen, and some of that was handled really well. Loved Jurati and the Borg Queen in season 2. Thought it was a fantastic story arc and story idea. And then it wasn't executed as well as it could have been in these 10 episodes. There was so much stuff that felt like, why are you focusing over here on this brand new character that you're going to drop after the end of this episode to have two people in a room when you could be focusing on the characters we really like? Why aren't you explaining the things that we really want to get explained? Like, why is Orla Brady playing two Romulan characters in this show? That was never really explained satisfactorily. It was kind of like, yeah, okay, I'm Romulan, but no, I'm not Laris. I'm a completely different character, and I'm not really going to explain it to you, which could have been done. There's loads of little bits like that you're going, just a bit tighter in the writing. Were they working to the final second, handing in pages to work around other things that were going on in the world? Could they have waited a couple of months and got everybody back together? Is the reason why Elnor wasn't in the season because he'd gone back to Australia and COVID restrictions wouldn't let him fly, so he was able to get over for a few days of filming, so they fit him into the series that way? There's loads of questions that I have like that, and I don't think we'll ever get the answers to that because they don't want to talk about that. But I will be back for season 3. Of course we will. And the knowing that this will be the final outing for Jean-Luc Picard in the third season is exciting and going to be interesting, and hopefully they do a great job on that final season.
Yeah, I mean, I think I would be in the same ballpark as Dr. Bob here. Yeah, I definitely want to see season 3, certainly with the Next Generation crew coming back. I mean, that does sound very, very enticing. And I just think that the writing wasn't good enough for the restrictions that were placed on COVID. And in some parts, yes, that's not the fault of the writers, but to my mind, you know, they have such a rich vein of actors here. Yeah. Like, I will watch anything that Patrick Stewart does. He is great. Absolutely love him. And then you add in John Delancey as Q and that on-screen chemistry and all those moments between Picard and Q in this second season were just so, so good. And then you have Whoopi Goldberg coming back as Guinan, and you have this powerhouse trio of previous Next Generation cast.
With an unexplored history that still remains unexplored.
Exactly. With an unexplored history. Yeah. Plus the great relationships that you got from season 1 with Rafi, the 7 of 9 being the that, and you just thought you could have done something, and in the end that it was all just everyone split up, probably spent too long in 2024 and had too many threads going on and setbacks that really didn't have any meaning. And I'm still slightly unsure. I like the, you know, as Dr. Bob says, you know, that the strands of love going strongly here, and the need for the love to be expressed to live a life fully. And certainly with Jean-Luc Picard, I understand that, but it almost felt like a separate storyline, almost. I
don't think that's enough to be served in a 10-episode series. Certainly. Yeah.
Like that needed to be wound up with Q then, rather than with his relative. Or it needed to be just set in the Confederation time rather than having to then do time travel.
Maybe.
I don't know. I just felt way too busy with things when you had this core of a fantastic season 1 cast coming back with Whoopi Goldberg, John Delancey, and with Patrick Stewart. And I just felt that it could have actually been tighter. You know, and that's the shame for me. That's my disappointment in this season, because, as I said, there's so much stuff I really, really enjoyed, like when Patrick Stewart and John Delancey as Picard and Q are together, like the whole thing to do with the Borg Queen and Jurati. Just so good. And in the end, there's that brief moment where Rios talks about his previous relationship with Jurati. That could have been the core. That should have been central, not him effectively finding another love in 2024 and staying behind. That could have worked in a different way, possibly, but the core of it should have been the grouping and his concern, their drive, their urgency to try and rescue Jurati. And even if they failed,
Yeah.
And it was just done in a throwaway line. So it's like the nuggets of it were all there.
They're all there. Yeah.
But they just chose to go in different directions. And so, yeah, it was really strange.
Yeah. Yeah. And a little disappointing overall. But we'll be here for season 3. Let's hope they don't have the same kind of impacts and don't have to ride around it the same way they did.
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Dr. Bob.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob. And just also, I think you're right. The last 2 episodes, I think, really pulled it back from, I think it was episode 8 and 7, which really just seemed to labour the setbacks that were going on. So I definitely agree with you on that. So yeah, thanks, Dr. Bob, as always, for the feedback. Really, really appreciated. We also got some feedback from Angie Arhos, who says, I was pretty disappointed in this season as a whole. I'm not sure if I'll be returning for season 3, like much of the cast. I love the character Picard, and the way he is being written now is not entirely true to the original. So many random storylines that never went anywhere. For example, the FBI agent with the Vulcan close encounter, and the utter misuse of the Rios character, who I adored last season. Shall I go on? I assume the patchwork feel of this season was partially attributable to COVID restrictions and the Omicron surge. But as I said, overall, a disappointment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're probably pushing a lot to COVID in some ways. There are just some elements, we've seen now probably hundreds of shows that were produced during this period of time, everything from soap operas to news services to dramas and sci-fi shows. I just really haven't seen the impact as much as I saw it in Star Trek Picard.
Yeah.
There were so many times I was sitting there going, oh, the reason why these three people are together over and over again is because they're in their COVID bubble. Why is it coming through so much in Picard when it's not evident in other big shows that are filming at the same time? Discovery was filming at the same time. It doesn't seem to have had those issues. But let's hope we can draw a line under this, get excited about season 3 and move on, because it's unfortunate that we have to give it this much benefit of COVID, I guess.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think a lot is being pushed on COVID. At the same time, the decision was made to go ahead with it despite COVID. And so then it actually does come down on the writers as to how imaginative and well they're able to work that. And as you say, this feels like you can tell there are those issues with it when so many could, at least on the face of it, seem to not have that sort of feel to it. So
hear that.
I think in particular, there's probably, as we've said already, in particular with Elnor, and you're just thinking, could have simply waited. Yeah. I know it's a risk, and also maybe the rules were just at a higher level because you're dealing with an actor who's in his 80s, because the last thing they want to do is that, National Treasure is taken out by COVID.
Absolutely.
So,
which is why they should have waited though, right?
Which is maybe why it was stricter, but equally, like you say, it's also a strong argument saying, well, we just have to put it on hold until this surge goes.
It feels like Paramount Plus, as an organization, were trying to fit this show into the window that they had, which was between Discovery and the start of Strange New Worlds. That's the timeline they had, and they wouldn't let anything stop them, regardless of whether it made the show better or not. And it should always be for the betterment of the show. I understand these are entertainments; these are things that make money for them as a company. But wouldn't you feel like you get more money out of it if you made the best use of your time? And that should have been in the writing room, and potentially pushing back filming and saying, look, we can't deliver a great show during this time, so we're going to have to delay it. It just would have been better. Thanks for your thoughts, though, Angie, and thanks for sticking with us for the season of Picard. Thanks for always sending in your feedback. It's always great to hear from you, and from everybody that's been sending in their feedback for Picard and for all the shows that we do.
Yeah, so thanks so much, Angie, as always. I do hope you return for season 3.
Yeah, come join us, at least.
Yeah, join us at least.
And tell us what you think.
And hopefully it's a rip-roaring season 3, to be honest.
Yeah, let's hope so. I think we should reward our loyal listeners after all the time they spent joining us for all of Picard, let's go on to our 10 Forward pub quiz with questions and answers and giving away some goodies for Picard.
Yes, most definitely. Fellow Trekkies, Trekkers, and Quizzers, welcome to the answers of the 10 Forward pub quiz questions for season 2 of Star Trek Picard.
Yes, and we've been a little shy about saying what the goodies are for Star Trek Picard, the 10 Forward pub quiz. And the reason for that is because there are 3 different official stores around the world that give different answers. And because our wonderful Trekkers and Trekkies are in different countries and different locations, we can't guarantee that we'll be able to get our hands on some of the merchandise from Star Trek Picard. It does depend on which country you're in. So once we've learned who the winner of the 10 Forward pub quiz is, we'll reach out to them and we'll give some details. There are loads of great options, loads of great merchandise from Star Trek Picard that we will be sending out to the winner of the pub quiz, but we will be reaching out to find out where you live so we can find out exactly what goodies are going to be able to go over to you.
But we have certainly picked out some from those 3 sites, which is the Star Trek shop in the US, Europe, and the UK.
Exactly.
And hopefully that will cover our entrance for the pub quiz.
Yes, if it doesn't, we'll find something else, I promise you.
But yes, we'll run through the questions and give the answers. We'll back and forth it between myself and Derek.
Yep.
So first off, for question 1, the Stargazer question. What are the 5 salutations given between Picard and Laris over a glass of red wine at Chateau Picard? Nostrovia, Noch Ein, Sláinte, Santé, and cheers, big ears.
Yes, very happy to be represented as Irish people.
Yes, indeed.
With Sláinte, our traditional Irish cheers.
Yes.
So that was quite nice. And we couldn't talk about it on the podcast. Orla Brady being an Irish actress, I'm sure she had a hand in getting Sláinte in there as well.
I'm sure she did. Absolutely.
Excellent. So, question 2 on episode 2, Penance. The question was, what is the name of Dr Jurati's virtual companion cat? The cat is called Spot 73, a little reference to Data, whose cat was called Spot on The Next Generation.
Yes. Episode 3, the assimilation question. What cookies does Rios try and bribe the child with in order to get his communication badge back? It was peanut butter cookies.
Of course, I love peanut butter cookies. Love. I totally would give the badge back. Thanks, thanks for that. On episode 4, The Watcher, the question was, what 3 items connected by the number 15 provide Picard and Jurati with their clue to when the divergence will happen? They are the Abacus, where she counts out 15 on the Abacus, the 15th volume of the Encyclopedia Britannica, and Chateau Picard Pinot Noir, 1915. So yes, all 15, all related to the 15th of the month.
Yes.
Nice.
And weirdly, from all that disparate evidence, they managed to get the 15th of June. Yes. Very clever. Very able to piece the dot to dot to dot to dot.
Absolutely. Jurati.
I don't think I would have done that.
Jurati's a genius, John.
That's true. That is true. And she had Borg Queen in her. So
she did.
Yes. Or did she?
She had the information from the Borg Queen in her, telling her that was
is true.
That
is true. Yes. That's the thing I forgot in my mind. Yes.
They were just reading tarot cards or consulting a crystal ball, John.
Well, let us go on to episode 5, where we are flown to the moon with the question, how many seconds does Q predict it will take for Adam Soong to sit down to hear his offer? It is 17 seconds, and he was bang on the money.
Did anybody take out their stopwatch to check it? See if the filming was 17 seconds?
Yeah, I probably would have done as a kid, because I know from Star Wars A New Hope, as the Death Star is coming round the larger planet to the I think it's the moon of that planet, Yavin 4, where the rebel base is actually on. Yeah, the Death Star would have charged up and fired and blown it to smithereens.
Did you measure the countdown?
Yeah, I did. Okay. And then measured. Yeah. And I was like, okay, they would have gone.
Okay, so, well, at least you weren't trying to measure parsecs for the Kessel Run, I suppose.
No, that's
so,
true.
yes.
The Empire would have won, and that would have been the end of that. Which, of course, wouldn't have made a good trilogy.
No, that would have been absolutely awful as a trilogy. That's halfway through the pub quiz questions, though. On to episode 6, 2 of 1. The question was, what is the type of shuttle, and what nickname does Renee Picard call the shuttle as Jean-Luc tells her to look up as he tries to calm her down? The shuttle was the OV-165 shuttle, nicknamed Spike.
Yes.
Which lots of people noticed, that's a reference to some previous, which lots of people know, because it's a reference to, in Star Trek Enterprise, it's referenced in there. Yeah.
Yeah,
So.
it's in the opening, credits and title sequence. Yes.
That's right.
Excellent stuff. On to episode 7, Monster. The question was, what bar does Queen Jeratti go to in this episode? It is Deacon's bar.
Yep, and for those of you who were asking when you were sending in your questions, no, I have no idea what the reference to Deacons is. It may just be somebody that works in the production.
It could be, yeah.
Or it could just be
or
the
they
sign.
love Deacon Blue.
Or it could have been the sign on the bar that they filmed in already. They just decided not to change it. On episode 8, Mercy, the question was, before he meets the Vulcans, what is the name of young Agent Wells' lost puppy that he calls out for in the woods? It was Maggie.
It was.
Yes, not my Aunt Maggie.
No,
his dog is called Maggie.
not Mr. Maggie, Miyagi.
That's very different, John.
I know.
Maggie is
I was trying to be funny.
Good job.
Oh, well. But I guess he thought he saw gremlins, ultimately, with the old Vulcans. You know, he was petrified.
He was.
So, close enough. But yes, it was Maggie. The answer was Maggie. For episode 9, Hide and Seek, the question we asked was, in Chateau Picard, as Rafi and Seven prepare to storm La Sirena, what 3 weapons do they have to take on the dozen Borg drones that stand in their way? It was a knife, a corkscrew, and an ice pick.
That's a challenging set of weapons to go up against
it
a
is.
set of new Borg drones.
I think you should add in a cheese knife, and then you could have a good picnic.
Yes, not a battle
As well.
for your lives. Our final question on episode 10, Farewell. The final question is, what astronaut does Talon replace to speak with Renee Picard before takeoff? I am so impressed with our Trekkies and Trekkers because I got the full name, John. You were laughing at me knowing the full name there. It was Maya Orlando is the name of the,
Excellent
of the person.
stuff.
It's only mentioned in dialogue that her name is Maya, or Maya. But you see her full name on her patch, Maya Orlando, and I know a lot of our wonderful fellow Trekkies and Trekkers must have paused to catch that. So well done to everybody that entered. Those were a really difficult set of questions, John. I will say we don't normally do them this difficult. What that means is, out of all of the entries, we have 6 people with the fully correct answers, and that's it.
I know.
Ooh. So, down to you 6. We will find out which one of you has won the goodies and get in contact with you and tell you what the goodies are, or at least tell you tell us where you are and we can tell you which set of goodies you're winning. So, John, do you want to announce who's in the draw?
Yes. So the 6 people that are in with a shout, and to go into the digital Google Tombola randomator for the numbers are Will Walton, Victor Sellers, Andrew Davis, Jamie Lawson, Laura Redenbaugh, and Dr. Bob Phillips.
Yes, okay, so 6 people in. Hey, Google, give me a number between 1 and 6.
Here's a random number, 2.
Number 2 is...
Excellent stuff. Congratulations to Victor
Sellers.
Sellers. Yes.
Well done, Victor.
Well done, Victor. You will be receiving some goodies from the US shop.
I think so, yes. I think Victor's over in the US. We've been doing so many pub quizzes and table quizzes and all of this stuff over the years. I'm starting to forget who's won in the past. I know that Victor has not won a Picard pub quiz. He didn't win last year's pub quiz, so we know at least that he is a new winner for Picard. How about that?
Yes.
Well done, Victor. That's great. I think Victor actually lives in the US.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Which means, Victor, the goodies that you'll be receiving is the Star Trek Chateau Picard at-home wine bundle. Indeed.
What's
So
that,
I
John?
am hoping you do like a drop of wine, but it consists of 2 wine glasses, a serving board for your nibbles, whether that's crisps or peanuts or olives or cheeses, and a corkscrew as well.
Very
so
good.
well done. And you'll also be getting on top of that, it's a magnetic Delta badge, Star Trek Delta badge as well.
Excellent. We have to say this, all subject to availability, but we'll be in contact with you,
Yes.
Victor. We'll get your address from you, and we'll order those for you. Congratulations, and well done to everybody that's out to the pub quiz. We hope you had fun, at least picking out all those details from the series of Star Trek Picard season 2.
Yes. And don't worry, you can also take it away from home if you need to, on a picnic, like we said. You could storm La Serena and have time for cheese, wine, and a few pickles as well, once you've got rid of those pesky Borg drones.
There you go, Victor. So a good prize for you there.
Yes.
Excellent. That's it for our Picard Season 2 podcast. We will be back, of course, with Picard Season 3 whenever that comes out. We think it's going to be within a year because the filming's done. So it's all completed. So hopefully you'll join us for Star Trek Picard Season 3, but loads of other stuff to join us for.
Yes, absolutely. We also will be wrapping up our Moon Knight coverage, looking at the assembled or making of episode of Moon Knight. We'll also be joined by our friends and fellow podcaster Ray from the Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast, and it'd be great to get his thoughts on the 6 episodes of his favorite comic character.
Absolutely.
Did it live up to expectation or not? You can find out when we take on the wrap-up episode for Marvel's Moon Knight, which will be out in the next couple of days.
Absolutely. Don't forget, we also have a pub quiz to announce, to crown the winner for over there as well. On top of that, as we said, June is going to be a very busy month. Where we kick off is going to be back to The Boys Season 3.
Yes.
Let's just say this now. We do have the episodes in advance. We've watched the first 3 episodes, which will all be released next Friday on Prime Video. I was unprepared. My memory is kind of shot. If you haven't seen The Boys, it is a very extreme show that does ask you that does push the boundaries quite a lot.
Oh, yeah.
And that first episode of season 3, I'd forgotten how extreme season 2 had gone. And this is around the same level or even further. No spoilers for
shocking,
the episode,
hilarious, possibly disturbing for some
might be.
viewers, but nonetheless, the dark humor, the chaos, the multiple spinning plates that are crashing to the floor that is Homelander will be on show in Boys Season 3.
It is.
So yes, can't wait for that. We will also have Marvel's Miss Marvel as well, that will be coming out on Disney Plus in June as well. And
June 8th.
June 8th. And third and finally in the month of June, we have season 3 of The Umbrella Academy.
Yes, we do.
Or the Sparrow Academy, where, yes, there is a bit of timey-wimey extravaganza, eleganza happening in The Umbrella Academy.
I'm excited to see that.
Yeah,
but
me too.
Unfortunately, as they do with most of their Netflix shows, all 10 episodes dropping on the same day for Umbrella Academy Season 3. It's a lot, and I think the show is really good, and I feel when they do that with their shows, they kind of lose momentum. Everybody looks at it over a weekend and it's gone. I know with the final season of Stranger Things, which has just come out, they're dropping half of it now and half of it later in the year. With Ozark, the final season of that, they did half of it and half of it later in the year. So it at least extended that enjoyment for people to watch.
Absolutely.
And I'm kind of saddened for Umbrella Academy because the cast is great. The story in season 2 is fantastic. And I'm always sad when it all comes out, everybody watches it in a weekend, and then the conversation just disappears.
Absolutely.
It's been a long time since season 2 now, and I'm hoping everybody jumps back on board and enjoys season 2.
I really, really enjoy Umbrella Academy. Some fine characters and performances from the cast of that show. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Same for The Boys as well. And absolutely excited for Miss Marvel.
Really excited
Love
for
the
Miss
trailer
Yeah.
for it. So, yes, plenty on offer from TV Podcast Industries in the month of June.
We'll work out a way to record it as well.
Yes.
With our missing co-hosts.
The pick and mix as to the hosts that will be on each episode is still to be determined, but we're trying to do as much as we can ahead of schedule, so that we can have at least the three of us, myself, Derek and Chris, with our dulcet tones, waxing lyrical about the boys and Miss Marvel and the Umbrella
Yes,
Academy.
in whatever configuration it is.
Yes,
You know,
indeed.
there's part of me that's going, this is our 667th episode, John, of the podcast. And it's part of me that going, I could construct a co-host out of all of the words that we've recorded from you and Chris over the course of the last 2 years. But that sounds like a lot, or the last 6 years, excuse me. But that sounds like a lot of work, so I'm not going to do
That
that.
will be a lot. Absolutely. Remember, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers, we're over at tvpodcastindustries.com, and please subscribe and share the podcast, because sharing the podcast is, of course, sharing the love. If you want to support us with a monthly donation, you can head on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries, or for a one-off payment, you can head on over to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI. Any support is very, very much appreciated.
Absolutely.
And welcome.
Yep, absolutely. And thank you to all of you who've been supporting us over the last 6 years. And always great to get your support and your feedback. It's been really good fun hearing your thoughts as we have been going through all of these shows. We'll speak to you next time, whatever show that might be.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much, fellow Trekkies and Trekkers. It's a pleasure discussing all things to do with Star Trek with you. And I cannot wait to discuss the boys, the Umbrella Academy, and Miss Marvel with you as well. Whether it's in your fellow boys and girls, your fellow defenders, or your fellow brollies.
Oh, you're using brollies now, are you?
Brollies. Yeah, it always has been.
Alumni.
Or alumni,
Alumni
yes.
from Umbrella
fellow
Academy.
brollies.
There you go.
Trolley brollies is what I like to refer to our great listeners. So can't wait to discuss all things about those shows as well. So as always, remember, keep watching, keep listening, and keep trekking.
Bye.
Bye.